All right. Hey, everyone. It's Kimberly coming to you from Panama, and we also have, hello, Adele here, also coming to you from Panama. And our presentation today is about the ties between leadership and membership and how to promote both membership recruitment and also membership sustainability, engagement, and how to keep that going throughout your time as a leader. I'm going to begin sharing my screen. Before that, though, I wanted to ask what you guys consider to be a leader. What's a leader in your head? What are the qualities that they exude?
I would definitely say someone that takes initiative to get things done and motivates the other people who are following them, I guess, to continue to, I guess, follow in their lead, but also take initiative.
Yeah. So to take initiative. What else? What other qualities are things that you see?
I would probably say someone who doesn't rely on other ideas or other people for an initiative. They kind of have the incentive to always start the trend and get the group to listen to them.
Yeah, and they maybe don't mind veering off a path that's already been set.
Yeah.
And creating your new path. What else?
I think, like what they said, someone that's always ready to step up, and if someone else doesn't want to do something, they're always there to do it, even if no one else wants to. And someone that's always available for people to come talk to them, because usually you want a leader to be someone that's open to talking to anyone and helping anyone with any problems that they may have.
Right, so kind of the solution giver or the help giver, somebody that gives their time to anybody that's engaged in the cause that they're fighting for. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And so how many months or years have you all been leaders at your chapter? We'll start with you, Annie.
Oh, like a month, I guess, a month and a half. I'm still getting the chapter up and running.
Yeah, Erin?
I was president last semester, so this is my first year as president.
Yeah. And then Carlina?
Yeah, this is my first year, so this is going into my second semester as the president.
And Beth?
Yeah, I'm the same. This is my second semester as president.
Nice. And I imagine that the three of you, Erin, Carlina, and Beth, you probably had leadership roles outside of your presidency too, correct?
Yes.
It kind of got you engaged in the chapter. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that too, because I think members, if you don't start them off with small roles, it's hard to get them to take on a leadership role like president, right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And do you guys all, so Butler, 2 years, Purdue, about 3, GMU, 3 as well?
Yeah, I would say 2, but the first one was really trying to get started.
Right. So I think that you four, including Galena, are about in the same space. And Annie, you are woo, it's a new baby. Hi, Galena, how's it going? All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Any questions before we start? No, awesome. Let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So you already kind of answered that first question. It's what is a leader? Who is a leader, and what kind of qualities do they have? Now, what is leadership? You just have one person answer.
I think leadership is assuming the role and the responsibility of being the highest point of contact and ideas and implementation of ideas, and it's just being the main point of contact or the person or the group of people who's in charge of organizing the followers, I guess, or the members.
And it's good that you're getting into the structure, Annie, because it kind of leads into my next question. Why is it essential that we have leadership in organizations? Why do we need a leader?
I feel
Perhaps
like,
why is it beneficial? Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like it's essential because like I've noticed within my own chapter that whenever like things start to get pretty busy at school, we tend to like drop off of our like drive and motivation with movement exchange. And so I think it's upon the leader to really be the one that doesn't let that happen and like really holds everyone accountable continually. And like when you accept the role of being the leader of the chapter, then it's really up to you to continue to keep checking in with yourself like every couple of days, like what have I done recently for movement exchange? Have I like motivated anyone recently? Have we like been talking? Has there been new ideas? And just like really taking it upon yourself to continually check in of what you're doing and what everyone else is doing.
I like that question that you asked yourself. It's like, why or have I motivated somebody recently? Like, have I reached out? Are there new ideas? What can I be doing with these new ideas? I like those thoughts that came across. And yeah, it's very, I'm sure you've all seen organizations where the leadership is not very well distributed and you don't exactly know who is in charge. And so it's really important to kind of maintain, I hate to say hierarchy, but that type of structure I think would be a better word, because there must be somebody always that's going to make the last decision. And so there are a few types of leadership. So there's transformational leadership, and this is actually quite effective. I think this is what I used as a chapter president, and I think it's probably, especially with organizations like this that do service and require a lot of community outreach, it's probably your best bet at getting members to be involved. It depends on the high levels of communication between the leader and the members. And the leaders, while they're focusing on the big picture and the bigger goals of the organizations, they can delegate smaller tasks to the team. And so let's say you need to start service at a domestic violence shelter, then you can delegate that task to one of your team members while you make sure that in 1 month or so, there will be service being done at that place. The smaller, like one step at a time goals can be a really great way to engage your members and to have them come to meetings and make them feel effective during those meetings. Transactional leadership, it's more, I would say, like a sales job type of thing where, members, or in this case, I would think maybe more employees would get certain tasks from their leaders. They would perform, and then their leaders provide rewards or punishments depending on how they perform. I haven't seen this type of leadership done too much in Movement Exchange. I do think it does have some benefits if you're trying to get, like, let's say, a lot of donations for your exchange. Provide rewards for people that go to the fundraisers, that develop the fundraisers. Maybe things like that, but I don't think that this should be your main form of leadership, only because it gets a little tricky, especially when your work is mostly qualitative and not quantitative. And then there's democratic leadership, which I think goes into transformational leadership. It's really important, I think, to blend the two together. So the values of input, the leader values the input of team members and peers, but the responsibility rests with the participative leader. So even though you take your opinions from your team members and from everybody that's involved, you are the one that makes that final decision. Everybody knows that. And so it's democratic, but it's not necessarily, the group makes a decision all the time. And then autocratic, you can think of it like a dictator. There's one leader, it's very, very clear, no one else makes decisions, and the leader will possess complete authority and impose it on their members. This isn't very healthy. I think we've seen in many types of government that it's not the best system, especially if you have a really creative team, it kind of suffocates that. But you always have to check yourself. I know that generally everybody is probably not on this type of leadership, but it's always good to check where you are in certain decisions. Like, are you not budging? Are you not willing to listen to other people's opinions? And what is happening there, and what's causing that? And so really making sure that you're not maybe even coming off as autocratic, because I think perception can get a little twisty when you have a lot of people to manage, yeah? And the last thing you want is for people to start thinking that, you know, you're too controlling or don't listen to them. You want to make sure people think that you're open enough for them to come to you. And so that's something to stray away from. And then laissez-faire leadership, it's kind of the opposite of autocratic, but it's not very effective because there's no feedback from the leader to its members. And so those members are kind of like in a lackadaisical, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be going. And this might be how some of your members feel sometimes, but it's pretty easy to fix. It just requires a little bit more, I guess, focus and drive and motivation coming from your end and also from your members' end. So it has to be like a meeting point in the middle, which can be solved with like direct goals and deadlines and things like that. And I know that some of your tasks in the chapter might be even difficult to complete even with those two things. So we'll talk a little bit about, you know, how we can change that. We're going to talk today about my favorite 5 elements of leadership. I found that, I guess with my, I didn't do my introduction, but I was president of Indiana University's chapter in 2013-14, so a few years ago. And since then I've, you know, taken on quite a few leadership roles within Movement Exchange, now the program director. And there's a lot of things you learn as a leader. I'm sure you guys are finding out. It's like you really learn how to work with people, but you learn so much more about yourself. I think it's really, really important to take on, I guess, a lot of self-reflection when you're a leader, because there's a lot of things that you'll uncover that might not be pretty, and it's okay. And that's part of the beauty of being somebody that leads a group like yourselves. We'll talk about finding your strengths, identifying and inspiring your audience, so your members, utilizing the power of now and seeing the possibility in every, you know, task or every opportunity, and celebrating your successes as well. So let's start with finding your strengths. I want you guys to take out that sheet of paper and list 3 to 5 adjectives that you think describe you as a leader, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So take like a minute to do that. Okay, did everyone have a chance to list them down? Can somebody volunteer to describe themselves as a leader?
I will.
Yeah.
I put dedicated, sociable, and charismatic.
Dedicated, sociable, charismatic, all great qualities. Anybody else?
I put organized, punctual, and then I tried to be, I guess, easygoing.
Yeah. Awesome, Galena. Anybody else?
I also had organized, but I also had like constructive / open-minded.
Constructive, open-minded. Very good. Awesome. And then what are your skills as a leader? Take like another 30 seconds. What are you good at? Like what tasks are you really good at doing as a leader? What do you get excited about right before you do it? Anybody want to share?
I said planning events and inviting people to events.
Yeah, absolutely.
I put organizing events too.
Events. Uh-huh.
I also
Anything?
put engaging creativity.
Engaging creativity. I really like.
I put down that I really like to speak about Movement Exchange and what our mission is. So I really like events that are like informational, and I really like calling new partners in our community and like talking about what we do. I just feel like
So like publicity, marketing, but even maybe more like embodying the mission.
Uh-huh.
people can see that when you speak about it. That's great. How about challenges? Go ahead and take a few seconds to list a few down here. Right. A few people to share.
I'd say one of my biggest challenges is details. Like I'm always a couple steps ahead in my head. So I'll be like talking and then
I feel you.
everybody's with me.
Yeah.
I need to retrace my steps and talk about what I clear
Yeah,
this a little
explain
bit.
what the hell you just said, or exactly. Adele has this issue with me. I will send her an email and she'll have no idea what I just said. So yes, I am completely aligned with that detail orientation challenge. Also,
I put delegating efficiently.
delegating efficiently.
Sometimes I just want to do everything myself, and that's just not fair to anyone.
That's Adele. Uh-huh.
I just get so excited, and I'm like, I can do everything, and then it's 3 a.m. and I can't do it.
That equals Adele. Anybody else?
It can also be hard to like find a balance between like holding people accountable and also like being understanding of like people are busy and have difficult schedules and stuff. And
Yes. Like not to be overbearing, but then to be like, okay, crack the whip, let's go. Right. Yeah. Oh, that's a really interesting challenge. Okay, bring this up later too, because I want to develop on that a little bit. For those detail orientation and like delegating issues, I want you guys to brainstorm. This might be after the call, but how you can engage your team members to help you fill in the gaps that you experience as a leader. I think that everybody knows what they're good at and knows what they're not as great at. And it really helps when you have an executive board that is kind of multi-dimensional and not exactly like you, right? Because if you have four Adeles who all want to do everything, that doesn't work. But if you have all Kimberlys that like don't see the details in anything, like won't I'll give myself a little credit. I've gotten better. But if you have all Kimberlys that and so what are your team members like? And maybe do this exercise with them too to see what types of challenges everybody has and where everybody else can fill in those gaps. Sure, you're gonna have positions that say community service director or choreography director, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. You'll know what your roles are, but I think this is really important because you'll also see where your strengths and weaknesses are as leaders, since you all on an executive board are leaders. Any other comments before we move on about this? This is like a very short exercise, of course, and it can be developed way further, and I encourage you to do so with your exec board. But any thoughts about this? No? Well, I have a fun quote at the bottom. Leaders become great not because of their power, but rather their ability to empower others. This leads us into our next topic. You're going to want to really, really think. If you have issues with getting members, keeping members, you really, really have to think in a marketing perspective in some way, but also, of course, psychological, about who are you marketing to? Who are your members? Are they dance majors? Are they, arts-oriented individuals, but not necessarily artists? Are they service-oriented? Who are they? What's the demographic like? Can one of you share about the demographic at your chapter of your members? Like what type of people are they? What are they interested in?
My whole chapter is, except for one member, my whole chapter is dance majors. But you guys know Amanda. We were founded by a person who wasn't a dance major. She was just had always had dance in her life and then wanted to keep it in her life in college. So I find that whenever we are presenting at like a organization fair on campus, the second I say dance, if someone's not interested or hasn't danced before, they like immediately close off to the idea of like joining our group. So I find that if I focus most of my energy on reaching out to people who I already know are interested in dance, that's when I usually have more success.
Yeah, absolutely.
We
And
had
it's-
that same, sorry.
Yeah, Galena, go ahead.
Same problem at our Bronco Bash at the beginning of the year. And we found like maybe halfway through that instead of saying dance and saying movement, we got more people who would be more interested because they weren't scared off as easily. They were like, oh, movement. Everybody can move.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was just about to mention something pretty similar. I think highlighting the different, which you probably always do when you talk about it, but maybe, explaining to them if they do have that kind of jitter right when you say the word dance, it's like, but really it's movement. And it can be yoga, it can be basketball, it can be soccer, whatever you have to share through movement is valid. I would say that if you do want to reach out to people that are non-dancers, the psychology department, Spanish department, anything that has to do with service, sociology, people are really, really interested even if they've never danced before. It is that initial step to go forward and be like, I'm not a dancer. I've never really actually moved in an official way. Can this be for me? And then when you have non-dancers championing your cause, it gets easier because I think it happens when you have that first person that's brave enough to take that step. Because at IU, we had one of our star members, Lindsay, whom some of you know. She's never taken a dance before Movement Exchange, she had never taken a dance class in her life, but she just got so excited about the possibility of using movement to connect with other cultures that she joined anyways and went to Panama her first year at college. So when you get that first non-dancer to champion the cause, it gets a lot easier for her or him to convince people to take it on, to take that step forward. So it's finding that first person, but mostly dance majors, Beth. And so their interests, of course, fall in line with Movement Exchange because it's dance. Does anybody have a different situation in their chapter?
I think that although I haven't fully established the chapter yet, I have a lot of service-oriented students who really have no dance experience and who were kind of really interested when I talked about arts education and how that's kind of a core value of Movement Exchange, and that kind of piqued their interest more than me saying dance.
Yeah.
So if you guys ever arts education was something that people were really interested in hearing me talk about, and how arts education brings people together and connects you with cultures and helps create a well-rounded education for children. So that was kind of that's what made all the service-oriented people want to join my chapter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anybody else have a different dynamic?
Yeah, well, at Purdue, we don't have a dance major, so we kind of started with just some people that were dance minors, but then now that I've taken over as president, I've tried to get people that I knew from dance clubs. But then I also try to reach out to people that might like the service part. So we got 2 members last semester that were interested in the service part dance. So it's kind of hard because we don't have dance majors, and even dance minors, we all have different schedules and stuff. So
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and especially when I think it's funny because you get that whole mix, right? You get all dance majors or no dance majors at all. I think sometimes it's really hard to get that good balance of, yes, half dance majors and half non-dance majors or non-dance at all. But with every dynamic, it's probably going to be that the interests are probably similar because you yourself attract a certain type of person. And Annie, it could be that you attract the service-oriented people that want to take action. Beth, it could be that you attract the arts-oriented and dance-oriented people at GMU. Carolina, it could be the same for you. It's just you as a leader attract a certain person, and those interests would probably be in line more with what you're interested in than anything else. Because that's what you'll talk about, right? And that's what you'll use to recruit people. One thing to think about once you do recruit people is what exactly their interests are and why they joined. Why is Movement Exchange important to them? And I think every time you set a meeting, be very, very clear about what you're going to accomplish or what you're going to talk about during that meeting. I wouldn't go to a meeting if it was purely informational. Like, there has to be something that I learned from that meeting, or something that I gain. And maybe that can be, I make a new friend, or maybe that can be, we watched a documentary on orphanages in Panama. They got really inspired. Or maybe it can be, we created a dance together to use at the domestic violence shelter that we're about to serve at. There needs to be something that makes them go to your meetings. And whether that's like, you're a great speaker and people get really excited when they hear you speak, or if that's something like an activity, whatever it is, make sure you have a really good goal or activity for every meeting, some sort of intention. I think when it gets to the grind of weekly or bi-weekly or bi-monthly meetings, sometimes it's hard to remember that, but really put in a lot of effort and ask yourself, why would I go to this meeting? Like, why would I really like this meeting? And if you can't think of an answer, maybe restructure it a little bit to make it something that would motivate you to go. Clearly, you're required, but if you weren't, would you go? Something else to think about during meeting times, it's like, when your members are with you, are they most productive then, or is it that they're most productive without you? So if they are most productive with you, which is probably the case, make sure you put in committee times or some sort of workshop time at the end of your meeting, so that they feel like they're doing something. They feel like their time is being used for something active. I think it's really hard when you have an hour of just talking to members, which I don't think is how you guys do your meetings anyways right now. But if it is, try to break it up a little bit. 20 minutes of committee meetings. It's like, where are we going to serve in this place? If you're at the community service committee, or if you're in the choreography committee, let's make a little piece for our exchange coming up in May. Whatever it is that makes your members feel like they did something during that hour. So yeah, providing intention for your meetings, making sure your members are doing something during that hour. And then also being very clear with the roles that your members have during the meetings, but also within the chapter structure as a whole. I think we've all had those members that are kind of on the sidelines, don't really get involved, but don't really know how. Make sure to keep your eye out for them, because they could be something like a president in the making you just don't know. And so giving them chances to take on roles. Let's say your exec board can't take on writing a grant. Maybe ask one of your members if they'd be willing to do it. I know that a lot of college students shy away from busy schedules and making it even busier, but I think pointing someone out in particular and being like, you would be really good at this one thing, that's a really great sign that you know how to see people's potential and put it to use. Okay, I think any other questions about meetings and members and how to be most productive in meetings? No? Okay. Another thing to think about is what they feel, what the members feel when they think about movement exchange and when they go to your meetings. Are they inspired? Are they really excited? What's the general feeling about what they're doing? And it goes back to what Beth was talking about, embodying the mission. And when you speak about it, do you see that the words are coming from your heart or from your mind? Because when they're coming from your heart, you really know. You can tell when somebody's really excited about something. And this is what you want for your entire group. You want all your members to be so excited that they can't keep their pants on when they're talking about it. It's just they can't stop talking about it. They love it. But how to get to that point, it's it can be a little difficult sometimes, especially when they're just starting, they don't really know what this is. And so being very clear about who they are impacting while they serve this organization, this chapter. Why is it relevant to them? And then why are your members involved in this? And asking them that during one of the meetings. Maybe after your next meeting, since some of you haven't started your semester yet, it might be good to ask, why did they join? And kind of reminding them of why they started with Movement Exchange in the first place. What issues does their involvement address? What role are they filling? Even as a general member, there's so many roles that they can be filling, whether that's like a cheerleader, they're so optimistic, they lead people into excitement, or whether it's an organizer, whatever that means. It can be really small roles and more like personality roles than anything else, but really pinpointing what those different personality characteristics are, bringing out the best in everybody's personality is something that will really, really help the organization structure of your chapter. Also, making sure they know that they can make a mark and asking them how they think they can. What do they think they can do? Maybe asking why they got involved, and then what do they think they can do for the chapter? What would they like to see? What types of dreams do they have? What ideas, what projects do they have in mind? I think really, really engaging those questions with your members is going to engage them. Charismatic is a word that's come up. It's really important here because if you can't speak about it, with this heart engaged energy, no one's going to really listen to you. I think it's great to have all these statistics, and it's great to have data on your fingers, but if you can't embody the mission yourself as a leader, no one's going to do it for you. So charisma is key. It doesn't just mean behavioral change. It means that you can transform your members' values and beliefs. With this embodiment of the mission, your members are going to feel even more invested in what you're doing as a chapter, and that's where behavioral change can come in. But until they embody what this work is, they're not going to change, and that's the essence of it. I think Beth, this connects back to what you were talking about, and I kind of forget exactly what it was. But it's not necessarily that you have to do goals, deadline. You really have to make sure that they are embodying what they're talking about, embodying what you're preaching, what they're involved in. Because if they aren't, they don't see why those goals and deadlines make any sense. Any questions up to here? All right. And so this goes into learning to delegate. Once you've made sure that members are feeling like, yes, I embody this mission. I'm really excited about it. I'm so invested. Once you kind of get to that point, you can start to delegate. And honestly, you won't know if you're at that point unless you just give it a try. Think about what the main method of delegation you use is. If it's text or email, it might not be working as efficiently as if it's face-to-face. I think delegation works best if you have it, happen in your executive board meetings or in your general meetings. When you have that person in front of you, know exactly what their schedule's like, they know exactly what you want from them, and you can find a solution together. Email and text get a little convoluted. I think, communication is always a little more difficult when it's not like right in front of you. But if that's the only way that you have to delegate a certain task, then that's fine. Deadlines. Are you giving the task one day before it's due, 1 week, or 1 month later? I think the 1 week is a really good balance between, short-term, long-term. If it's 1 month later, people forget. And I think, last-minute deadlines, not too last minute, but somewhat last minute, we're like, oh, it's Monday, I have to get this out on Friday, work the best. 1 day before, depending on what it is a little too late. So you as a leader have to really think about what type of goals you want to set for your members and when to do that. If you know that there's a grant deadline coming up in 2 months, maybe set small steps for your members to complete, or member, because mostly a grant proposal will be one person, to complete 1 page a week, and you can revise it every week and make sure that they're on the right track to submit that grant proposal. And you should be doing this with yourself too, which I'm sure you guys are. Or SMART goals are a favorite thing ever. But I think with your members, if you have big goals for the chapter, make sure that you break those down. Let's see, and then I want to talk a little bit about a goal that you've set with one of your members that wasn't completed. And I want to talk about why. Can anybody share a story about, a goal that they set for one of their exec board or general members? It can be the smallest thing.
Sorry, I was on mute. I was talking.
Oh, okay. That was just me.
We had a community partner last year, Facets, that we were teaching at often, and this year they changed the policy that we all had to go to an orientation.
Yeah.
So I went to the first orientation to meet the woman and get all the details that I would need to relay to my team, and essentially I gave them a few dates that they could get to the orientations, and you needed the orientations to go teach at Facets, and none of them ended up going to the any of the orientation dates, so we weren't able to go to Facets again this semester.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of frustrating, and it was also I felt partially on Facets end for they were pretty unorganized, so it was kind of a whole combobulation of unorganized on all parts, but that was just a little bit frustrating. And so I think that my goal for this semester is to just at the first meeting give them the 3 dates and tell them that just be more clear and I guess persuasive that they need those are just the only options that they have, and just be I guess just more direct about it. I feel I was a little bit too easygoing about it last semester, and along the lines with the whole trying to understand everyone's busy schedules, but at the same time there has to be a line where you kind of lay it down.
Yes. Yes, and I think this was your comment, right? The balance. I struggle with. I think I used to struggle with being too easygoing. Oh, you don't have time. That's okay. That's fine. I have since become way more direct. And as soon as you cut to the chase, sometimes it does seem a little harsh to people. But in the end, they know what you want as a leader. And I think it's hard to of course, be a friend and a leader and, a colleague, classmate, all at the same time, especially in college. But one thing that will really help with this is that it's not you. It's about the chapter. It's not necessarily about what your needs are. It's about what the chapter needs are. And so to make sure that you're not coming across as it's just what Beth wants. No, this is what the chapter needs. We as a chapter want to do service. Being very clear about that. It's your intentions are not to improve something for you. It's for your chapter. And I would say that, especially for this goal that you mentioned, making one person just do it. Because when you spread it out amongst 5 people, it's kind of that effect where, in the middle of the crowd, somebody gets stabbed. Who does something? Nobody. Because everybody kind of is a diffusion of responsibility. No one takes responsibility for anybody's actions but their own. Whereas when you have an isolated street and somebody's getting stabbed, one person will call. Because they're oh my God, they're alone. There's nobody else to call. I'll call. I'll do it. Because they're that one pinpoint person. They realize it. And so once you have that pinpoint person of whatever goal you want done, it gets a lot easier to delegate, because you're clear with that one person what they need to do to accomplish their goal and complete whatever it is their role has to do. I do want to think more about this balance thing, because I know, like I said, when it's your friend or your classmate, it is difficult. But I think with just harsh deadlines, a pinpoint person, I think those 2 methods really help with that, and just making sure to stick with it and not budge. And I think I have a paper due tonight excuse works a few times, but if it has happened way too many times in the past, be yeah, I do too. I know that school is rough. Everybody has deadlines to meet, but you committed to this goal. Please take 50 minutes out of your day to just do it. And I think procrastination will kind of end there. All right. So any other examples of a goal? I think there's a lot of similar ones like that. At the end of the day, When you get your members invested, when you get them to embody the mission, that's when you'll get most involvement. When they feel like they've already given up their time and their hard work to the chapter, they'll be much more likely to step up and to actually complete whatever it is that you're giving them to accomplish. And so let's say you have a general member, they've never done anything. Let's say you give them the role of calling facets to see if there's another orientation. Maybe they've never talked to a service organization before, but this is a good chance for them to learn if they can do it. And if they can, they'll feel empowered and feel like they gave something of them to the chapter. And that's when you're going to get really good member engagements, when everybody has some sort of something to hold on to say that they did it. They did that. To feel empowered by you and the chapter. And yeah. Delegation is hard. I know for my all-doers out there, it's really, really hard to kind of relieve yourself of a little bit of the responsibility because you're not sure if it's going to get done. I think it honestly also sometimes takes a little bit more time to manage people to make sure that things are getting done as well. But in the long run, it gets more members engaged and more people excited about what they're doing. And I think it's a good investment, I guess, in the long run. It may provide a few hiccups like the one that you mentioned, Beth, but in the long run, you'll have like way more people that are like excited to get to do things and get little roles here and there. The power of now. I want you guys to take out your sheet of paper one more time. List some priorities that you have right now for today, for tomorrow, this week. What are your top 3 priorities? Now, for the semester, I want you guys to list 3 to 5 goals that you have. Can somebody speak a little bit about how their priorities this week or today, tomorrow relate to their semester goals? If they do.
We have a 1-day dance intensive coming up in February. And so one of my goals is to delegate more. And we had a meeting last night. So I gave jobs off. And now I have to just trust that everybody is going to get this done, even though they have a crazy dance major schedule.
Yeah, yeah. So it relates directly back to one of your semester goals. That's great. Anybody else?
Mine's very similar. We have an event going on this semester, and we have a meeting tomorrow night. And so my goal for the meeting tomorrow is to kind of like divvy up the tasks and get people to volunteer and decide who's doing what, when, and give them deadlines and stuff. So it's pretty much like the same goals.
Yeah, that's great. And so anytime.
Sorry. Do you guys find it hard to get people to volunteer? Like, I'll ask somebody to do something, and then I kind of am staring around the circle, like, eyeing people, hey, you want to do it? Because I get they're busy, but like,
You ask the group or you ask an individual?
The group. So maybe I should be asking individuals.
So what so this is also one of those things that you develop over time, but seeing kind of who would be the best person to do this and making sure that you're not picking the same person like all over and over and over and over again. Because I think there's always that star individual that could be present next year. But you want to see who would be really good at this and make sure that every task is somehow not just going to 1 or 2 or 3 people, maybe taking a chance and picking somebody out of the crowd and being like, I want you to do this. It's hard. It's like when you ask a question in a class and like your teacher's like, hey, does anybody know the answer to the definition of XX? And no one, like everyone knows it, but then no one's going to answer it. And so being like, hey, Annie, like I really think you'd be great at handing out flyers outside of the building for our event tomorrow. Can you do it? And that's it. Like just listing something that they'd be really good at and how it relates to the task that you're asking them to do, and then seeing if they're down. If they're not, then you can ask somebody else later, but being really, really confident in your decision to give them that role. I think especially when you ask the group, it's hard because, like I said, no one's just going to jump up and do it, but if they feel like you believe in them to do that one thing, they're probably going to be more likely to do it. That's a good question. Thanks, Galina. Anything else that comes to mind? So I see one of the goals for the semester is to delegate more. It is an art. It's difficult to make sure everybody's meeting their deadlines. That's why I think putting them, all the deadlines that you have, putting them in your calendar is really, really effective too, to make sure that you as a leader know when to email them and be like, hey, did you submit that one thing, versus a week later, oh my God, did you do that? Like that was a week late, and so making sure to put all those deadlines for you and your members in your calendar. Now, priorities and goals are pretty similar. I think goals, of course, should have deadlines and things like that. Priorities are like, what things am I focusing on this week, today, tomorrow? And they should be steps towards your goals, your bigger goals. Now, for anything that has to do with fundraising or membership recruitment, they seem like pretty big goals, especially if your semester goals are increase membership by 20 people. Okay, what are you doing every day? Every time you have a moment to just sit, what are you doing to make that happen? What steps can you take now for each goal that you have for the semester? And so if it is delegating, what steps can you take to improve your delegation right now? Like, what can you do? Can you put all those deadlines in the calendar right now? If so, do it. If you can't do anything right now, let's say you're waiting on Facets to give you the processing papers to go serve at their institution. They haven't given it to you then, you can't do anything except for wait, right? And so sometimes you just have to wait for other people to, or other institutions, other organizations to get back to you, like if you're trying to do service somewhere. But most of the time you can break goals down. And that's what I think most of you are pretty good at, but making sure that you're not saying, oh, we're gonna get 20 new members and not really having a game plan to make that happen. What can you do right now for each of those goals of the semester? And asking yourself that every week. Case examples. So fundraising, we always are like, oh, it's really hard to fundraise. How are we gonna get there? Don't focus too much on that big number. Always focus on what you can do like in a week. Like, can you save $50 from your job salary or from your allowance or whatever income you might have coming in? What can you do? What plan can you make to kind of break that up? Same with membership recruitment. If you want to get 5 more members, what steps are you taking every day to make that happen? Are you inviting your friends every week to the meetings? Are you making sure that your members are inviting friends? What's going on, and how can you make those steps better? And so there's daily steps to reaching goals. There's now steps to reaching goals. Making sure you really, I just want to like really push the now perspective, because I think there's so much stuff that you can do in just one moment. And like right now, you don't need as many like big lumps of time to get stuff done. You can get a lot done in 10 minutes. It just requires a little bit of engagement and focus on what the 10 minutes will be used for. So definitely focus on now, focus on daily actions. And then let's say you're thinking long-term, you're graduating in 2 years or 1 year, and you want to make sure that your chapter is sustainable. What types of short and long-term goals are you going to set to ensure that this transition is smooth? And maybe it's using 30 minutes every week to start putting together a handbook for people to use when you graduate, so that they don't need to email you like, oh, how do I reserve a room? How do I do this? How do I do that? Really remember to use your SMART goals. Specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. So time-bound is deadline. Realistic is like you can do that in that amount of time. Action-oriented is action now. Measurable is like how many more members, how much money, how much time, whatever it is, specific. And with those types of goals, you really be able to get the most out of the now. Don't forget to prioritize those as well, because sometimes you get really excited about planning an event and you forget about whatever deadline you have to submit like a chapter registration form for. things like that. It's like admin things and event planning things are sometimes not the equal amount of fun, but I think, of course, don't get lost with just getting fun things done. Any questions about the power of now and kind of how to use that? Yeah, really think about those 10-minute breaks between classes. You can get way more done than you think. Instead of just chilling out and taking a chill pill, you can do something. You can make sure that somebody's setting a deadline, etc. And then there's seeing the possibility in everything. I want you guys to think of some time that you had somebody as a leader that wasn't necessarily the most optimistic. Can anybody remember something and how it made you feel?
I was on a dance team. The president of the team was just, it didn't really seem like she wanted to be the president. She just kind of fell into the role.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she was kind of grumpy a lot, and it just made me as like a team member, like I didn't enjoy going to practice. I didn't enjoy like being on the team. And then, you know, once she left, it was like my like view of dance completely flipped because I was so much happier. And I was like associating with like, oh, I don't like dancing anymore, but it was just kind of about that leader. So I think it's like really important, like if you're like, if I'm overwhelmed, but like as a president, like what you said earlier, like it's not my needs, it's the needs of like Movement Exchange and of my chapter. So like I should keep that in mind because it could affect a member to feel badly about what we're doing because of like how I am as a president.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and you know, I'm sure it's really interesting because it's funny that turned into your maybe not being as motivated to even dance. That's and that's the last thing that you want, right? Especially with an organization like this, you want people to feel empowered to give back through dance. And so if you come in with an energy that is a little less like, we're going to change the world. I mean, of course, realistically speaking, yes, you are changing the world, but it does take work. Making sure that work doesn't feel too draining is really important, not just for you, but for your members. I think that's a really good point that you touched on. I want you guys to think now too, even if you are really positive generally, what mental roadblocks do you set for yourself or for your members? Like what types of things have you been like, I don't think that's gonna happen? Can anybody think of something that they've recently thought about? It's like, oh, I don't think that's possible. Nothing?
I have one.
Yeah, go.
I like am wondering if it's possible for my chapter to actually like end up having like most of our funding covered for our trip, and like as opposed to it coming out of our like personal bank accounts. Like I know a lot of people who are going to Panama this year with us are like hoping for a lot of money to come out of fundraising, but I'm feeling like I have a lot of the fundraising burden just like on myself, and I'm feeling like a lot of like dead ends are happening, and so I'm starting to get like a little bit stressed about like the reality that people are probably gonna have to pay for it just out of pocket.
Yeah. So it seems like people are looking to you to solve their problems, right?
Yeah. And
I think
large monetary.
And it's not right, and it's not like you're like, oh, this is impossible. You're never going to reach that goal because you want to, and you're setting that vision up for yourself and for the chapter. And so it looks like the issue here is more like they're kind of lifting off the responsibility off their shoulders and putting it onto you. So you have the weight of 10 people trying to fundraise on your shoulders, which is definitely not good.
Yeah.
What do you think you can do to change that?
Well, I have one like outlet that Tori and I are presenting at the Rotary Club of Fairfax in like 2 weeks. So I'm hoping that something can maybe come out of that, and then I was gonna plan a couple like fundraising events at the like restaurants around, but they haven't in the past. They haven't like yielded a ton of money. So
So one thing I would think about changing is not necessarily the funding opportunities. I think you're already doing a great job researching them and doing the most you can with what resources you have. I would focus on how you're changing the perception of their fundraising efforts. Like this is not like something that the chapter itself will provide. It's probably mostly going to come from their effort, and being very clear about that and decisive, like, you probably have to raise on your own. You'll probably have to raise at least half of your program donation. How can we break up steps to get there? And it's not going to be on you, it's going to be on them. And so this is the perfect place for them to feel empowered to make that their possibility and their reality. And if that means they set up fundraisers at school, if it means that they are sending out letter donations or donation request letters to aunts and uncles, you can use a meeting for them to do their own brainstorming. And I think even that would be a great meeting for them to have, a brainstorm session on what they can do to reach the program donation amount before May.
Right.
Instead of you looking for as many fundraising possibilities and trying to get everybody covered, that is going to probably not go as well as you would like.
Right.
So being clear about that and hey guys, I think that if we set a goal to raise $300 each a month, we'll get there, and it'll be better than just paying that $13.90 out of pocket. And probably some of that can come from other sources. It doesn't have to come from your bank account, but only if you work for it, right? It doesn't come out of the sky. And just being realistic with them about it. I think that's definitely something that everyone runs into as a chapter leader. And the most that you can give to them to make their own fundraising efforts alive, the better. Anything else that you guys can think about? And so taking Beth's case, for example, it seems impossible, and it most likely is very difficult, at least, for her to raise the entire amount for her chapter on her own. And so how can we restructure it and restructure, the actions of members, the chapter goals to make it possible, to make sure that everybody is covered? How can we change the perception of members and their role in whatever task seems impossible to make sure that it becomes real, that it is possible? I think thinking about how to restructure not just the goal, but also the actions towards the goal, utilizing members or utilizing other resources that you have, is really important with those types of. Yeah? Anything else? Cool. Sorry. No. Okay. So everybody put their or feedback.
Yeah. Here, so actually, because mine, I had to download a plugin or something. Yeah, I can't even. I'm trying to do that too.
Okay.
You said.
Yeah.
I can't hear anything. Oh wait, just why are you guys on the?
Can everybody hear me okay?
Sorry.
Okay. Take out your list of paper one more time, or sheet of paper, and write down your 3 biggest dreams that you have for your chapter.
Yeah. 2 years. Do you mind? Yeah. Sorry. I did. Oh, you did? Because I heard you. Oh, my microphone? Yeah, I don't need your mic. What's with this? It's supposed to. Should we just do one computer? Okay.
Can I get one person to share one of the
computer?
I have mine. One will be Dance Day, to have a very successful one-day dance intensive, just because that is a big fundraiser for us for our Panama exchange. Also, to have everybody feel comfortable before we go on the exchange. We've been trying to really hit that in our meetings and talk about how we are going to approach that so people feel comfortable. And then third, have people feel comfortable when I leave and if anybody else is graduating in that chapter.
Yeah. Anybody else want to share?
I have one. I am hoping that earlier this year I went to the dean of my college and asked if there was any way that we could essentially have funding through the college for our organization and then just have our college recognize Movement Exchange as a part of the performing arts college at our school, so that we could just have better advertising, marketing, and then funding. And essentially what they told us was that right now they were switching over with their budget, and so maybe in a couple years, they said they would be interested in doing all of the ideas that I had for Movement Exchange at Mason. And so I won't be at Mason anymore, but it would be really awesome if whoever takes over after me follows up with the dean of our college, and then we do end up getting a better.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that this particular dream goes beyond your graduation date, in a pretty grand sense, I guess. Yeah, because whatever opportunities and doors that you've opened, maybe it ended with another closed door, but going and knocking again in a couple years is definitely something to mention to whoever's taking over after you graduate. Yeah, right. And so keeping those doors open, keeping relations open, dreams open, I like that. One thing that we get a lot of times is, a chapter president maybe doesn't think it's realistic to go on an exchange or to get a grant or to get more members. One thing I just want to point out is if you don't think it's possible, if you don't think it'll happen, no one in your chapter will. They're looking to you, and they're looking to you to set the standard of what's possible, what's not possible. Be very careful with what you turn down as a possibility and what you say about different goals and whether they're realistic or not, because it affects the perception of your members more than you think. Yeah, and I think since you are the liaison between Movement Exchange and your chapter members, it's really, really important to just maintain the stream of anything that we offer as a program or anything that we offer as a resource is accessible to the members, whether or not the chapter provides it. But yeah, just making sure that you as a leader know that maybe it's not realistic to go on an exchange or to get a grant in this semester, but that it's a possibility next year. And so you never say that it's not a possibility, right? Dun, dun, dun. And so going back to the webinar that you guys had right before the new year, look at all the possibilities you have for just fundraising. I think, of course, all of these require work, but it doesn't mean that work, makes it impossible, right? You can, like I was talking about with Beth, is you can make your members create these types of events so that their fundraising efforts are enhanced. You can really put that power into their hands. And so this is just for fundraising. So imagine all the possibilities for service, for whatever it is that you want to prioritize this semester. Make sure that you really, really open yourself into whatever goals the chapter has. Really, really look into all the possibilities for each goal. Another thing to think about as we're closing this webinar is celebrating whatever successes you have. I don't think we do this enough, right? I think you might look back a year from now and be like, wow, we did so much, you know? But how was this success communicated with your members, and how did you celebrate? And I think that's really gonna set the tone for what your chapter does and how people respond to it, and if they stay engaged or not. If you get a huge grant, you better bet you're gonna have, you know, a dinner out and, you know, night out on the town or whatever. You want to celebrate with everybody and make sure that they know that they were a part of this. I think another really great part of being a leader, and not just like a boss of members, is making sure that you recognize that it wasn't just you that did X thing. It's your team. And so making sure that whatever success you as a leader accomplish or as a chapter, you celebrate it with everyone. During your meetings or whatever it is, make sure any success is communicated. And it goes down to whatever it says down here, who wants to work hard and never play hard. It's kind of funny, I guess, but really, like, you want to have fun during your meetings. You want to have fun with your members. Make sure that you give enough opportunities for that, because I think, you know, with the grind of school and other extracurricular activities, it can get kind of hard to think about that other half of, like, yeah, they want to have fun too. Why do you dance? Because you have fun doing it. So why shouldn't Movement Exchange be kind of like that as well? What's motivating your members to succeed? Is it, you know, the celebration you guys are going to have afterwards? Maybe as small as bringing candy to a meeting. Whatever it is, just make sure that your members know that you're proud of them every once in a while. Yeah, and then get creative with it. My favorite thing, I think, when I was the president, is we did awards at the end of the year. For the first time when I was president, and it was really cool to see. I gave that responsibility to somebody else to do all the awards and to choose the categories and choose the member that got whatever award. We had from, like, the most fun emails to the most funny expression. I don't know, it's just like they were funny awards, but it amped up the rapport, and it got everybody talking and, you know, really excited about next year. So things like that that'll kickstart everybody to keep improving not just the chapter, but also themselves within it. It's like when you highlight those great strengths with an award, you know, they'll really, really appreciate that. Another thing you do with fundraising is organize contests between your members. This is another thing from the fundraising thing that Adele did. I kind of twisted it up a little bit, but for every member that raises $50 or more for their exchange, you'll dedicate an interpretive dance to them or something like that. You know, it's really trying to make it fun. Like, fundraising can be fun, but you as a leader have to think of ways to make it fun. And then, you know, one of my faves was doing a massage train at the end of your meeting. It's like, oh, we had a really productive meeting. Let's use the last 5 minutes of this meeting to kind of treat ourselves and just relax. So having a massage train, or, you know, dancing it out, whatever that means. Be creative and just make sure that you leave room for that. Room to socialize, room to have fun together. For the recap, this of course is like a very light introduction into leadership, and I think you guys of course will learn way more and probably have learned way more as your time as presidents, but I want you guys to remember basically these 5 things. You know, you have to recognize your strengths. You cannot do everything. Your ego is not your ego. You cannot do everything. You need help. You need help. And really structuring the organization, the chapter, to help you receive that help is really important. To make sure that you do that. And inspiring your audience. You have to be somebody who makes everybody feel like a somebody. How are you going to do that, and how are you going to pinpoint people to complete certain tasks and make sure that they realize what their potential is as members and maybe leaders one day? The trouble is you think you have time. Make sure you really, really utilize whatever time you have to make whatever goal you have come to life, because there's definitely something you can do in 10 minutes between classes, or 10 minutes before your favorite show. Whatever that is, you don't need long blocks of time to complete it. You can do it now. And may your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. I think, of course, this is really, really important when you're seeing possibilities. Forget about if you're going to fall down. You're probably most likely going to, but, you know, don't fear that. Accept it as part of the reality of getting to your dreams. and completing your goals. And then, of course, celebrate. Hard times require furious dancing. If you guys have had a rough month, dance it out. Massage train, treat yourself. Just make it fun. Make whatever you're doing fun, and it'll all be good in the end. Any questions? Anything that you guys want to talk about before we close?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know if anyone had any like meeting traditions or anything, like you said, like the massage train, if any of you guys had anything. I just think it's good inspiration, like for when I start my chapter, if I want to establish anything, or if you had any ideas of anything.
I know one thing after talking to a bunch of the chapter presidents, a lot of them sit in a circle during their meetings rather than like in a classroom, like in chairs with the PowerPoint presentation. I know I give out that PowerPoint presentation, but you don't necessarily have to show it on the screen unless you want to. You can kind of just use it as a general guideline. So I think that's one of the things that's been really helpful for a lot of the chapters is like sitting in that circle to make it not feel like another class or something, and it kind of gives you like you get to see everyone's face. It feels really inclusive. So I would encourage you guys to sit in circle in your meetings. I think that's a really small thing that you can do that will help.
Cool, thanks.
I remember one time there was a girl who brought a hat full of quotes. The thing is, this can also come from your members. She just brought a hat full of quotes, and you pick one, and it was like an inspirational one, and you read it to the whole group. And I don't know why, I remember that
Cool.
From a long time ago. I remember that because it really got me excited. It's like somebody took the time to print out all these quotes, cut them out, and put them in a hat for you to draw them out and get excited and inspired again. It can come from your members. You can have what do they call it? Like a morale committee. You can have a morale committee. You can have somebody that's like dedicated to morale, making sure that people are having a good time. Yeah. Anybody else have something to share? Something that they do during their meetings?
I usually start my meetings out with like a recap of any like accomplishments we made in the past like couple weeks or like since the last time we met, just so everyone can like, even if there are members who like haven't been really like involved or haven't done anything, just to know that like other people have been doing things and like we have been getting stuff done. Just so that
and that's a really good way, Beth. I like that you brought that up because it's a really good way to celebrate like successes together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes people don't realize how much you do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Oh, Erin, I think you're on mute.
I was. Thank you. But at our last meeting of every month, me and the other exec people, we like pick somebody that did like something, put like extra effort in, or somebody that like volunteered the most hours that month, and we feature that person, like give them like a shout out and like talk about like what they did that month to like try to like encourage people to get more involved.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. Any other questions? Comments? Anything that you didn't think was covered that you'd like to talk about? No? Oh, well, you know what I would think is a little fun is going one by one. I know we've had a few people join us since we started. I want everyone to meet each other. I know that it's great to see everyone's face, but let's introduce each other and get to know each other a little bit more before we sign off. Annie, you're on my far left, so go ahead and start.
I'm Annie. I just started a chapter at Boston University. I'm currently a junior. I'm a dance minor at my school. I was a music major my first year. Yeah.
Nice. And then Armani. Hey, girl.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Darn it. No. Well, Armani, if you don't mind, I can help you with an introduction. She's the fabulous. Oh wait, I hear you now. Go ahead.
Oh,
I can
okay.
hear you.
I'm a junior at Barnard College in New York City, and I'm a dance major, education minor. And I started the Barnard chapter of Movement Exchange 2 years ago now. Yeah, I plan to do dance education after college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Erin.
Or am I next? Okay. I'm Erin. Sorry. I'm a junior. I go to Butler. I am the second president of our chapter. This is my second semester as president, but my first year. And yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're on mute.
Hey, Galina.
Yeah.
Oh, there we
Do
go.
you want
Now
to?
you're good.
Great. Perfect.
Oh.
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Galena from Western, and I'm a double major in dance and early childhood education.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. Hey. Who's this?
Is it the U of I group?
Oh, you guys are muted. U of I.
Yay! Hey,
Yay!
Mary.
What's up? You guys are muted.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. We're the U of I chapter chapter board. Would you like to introduce all of us, or?
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mary. I am the chapter president. I've been the president for a year and a half now, and I'm a senior. I'm a double major in dance and kinesiology.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Juliana. I'm a junior majoring in dance, and I'm the secretary.
Yay.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm a junior. I'm the fundraising director.
Awesome. Hey, Lauren.
I'm Phoebe. I'm a junior majoring in dance. Co-community outreach manager.
Yay!
Nice.
And then
I'm Sarah. I'm also a junior dance junior, and I'm the marketing director.
so cool.
Oh, and they're gone. That was great. That was so nice to meet the
I
whole
know.
board.
Wow. Yeah, your board is more than welcome to join these webinars in
yes,
case
absolutely.
you want them to. Even if it's remote, even if you guys aren't all together. Carlena.
I'm Carlina. I'm from Purdue. I'm a junior, and this is my first year as president.
Yay! And Beth.
Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Hey, I'm Beth.
Hi.
I'm from George Mason, and I'm the president at George Mason.
That's my friend.
And I'm super pumped right now because Phoebe and I met like so many years ago, and now we're just like on a Google chat together. And
Yay!
yeah,
That's awesome.
Wow. What a small world.
yeah.
You know, that's another thing to tell your members is something that's really cool about Movement Exchange is it's probably somebody in the community that you already know.
Yeah.
And Beth, I think you found this to be the case in quite a few situations, right? You've got a lot of like different connections to Movement Exchange.
Yeah.
That's something that's really cool to tell your members. Another really great reason to be involved. Another few motivational things. I really, really like that U of I got their executive board together for the call. These webinars are accessible for everybody. If they want the resources and information that we have available every month, they can access it. You just send them the link that Adele sends you and they're good. And another thing is the leadership conference. You guys all as presidents, of course, are invited. But it's something for, future presidents and current general members, future presidents to think about. If they want to step it up, they have the opportunity to get involved with the national or go to the national conference. And that's really, really exciting. I think it's great to meet everybody.
Yeah. One thing I'll say about that is actually we just had 2 of our members meet up in LA.
Yeah.
Carla, who's our
I'm in LA. I'm in LA. I should have gone to that. I'm in LA. Yeah.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Well, I'll put you in contact with them because they're
Yeah.
there. Janine. So it was
Oh,
her.
right. I met Janine. Okay, yeah.
Carla was visiting LA and it's like, hey, Janine, I'm here. And they met up. So MoveX is everywhere. So I think that's one of the really cool things. It's like you can meet up with people anywhere you go. And the best way to meet them is at the conference or by coming to Panama on a joint exchange or something.
Yeah.
So that's another cool thing to keep in mind.
It's a bigger community than you think, way bigger than yourself and just your chapter. So that's I think a good note to end on. Yeah, the community is always here to help. So any other questions or comments, anything that's like on your mind? I know it's a holiday and you probably want to like use tonight to do fun things, but anything else that you guys need from us or any tips on any situations that you're having right now? No? Okay, well, I hope I covered as much as possible for everyone. If you have any comments and things that we didn't cover, you can send me an email and I'll try and, give my advice or whatever you guys are dealing with. But really, thank you so much, everyone, for jumping on the call on this holiday. I'm really excited that we got so many people out here and that you guys are able to meet each other, even if it's just virtually. It's really exciting. And I hope you guys feel inspired for the new semester. Yeah! Awesome. Get that massage. Yeah, I like that. Action. Get that massage train at your next meeting. Whatever it takes to get everybody inspired, just like you guys feel like right now. Awesome. Okay. Have a fantastic MLK Day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Ciao.